In the quiet town of Eden, two teenagers named Adam and Eve are falling in love, but their secret romance is about to be destroyed by the hidden sins of their own fathers. Here is the web of grief and greed closing in on them. First up, the orchard bond. Adam and Eve's connection is anchored in shared grief over Adam's mother, Rachel. They secretly meet in her apple grove, using her old prayer journal to fill the spiritual void she left behind. Next, the bitter mare. Adam's father, Joshua Thorne, never recovered from his wife's tragic death. His unresolved grief has curdled into a deep hatred for God and a desperate drive to sever his son from the devout pastor's daughter. Third, the predatory judge. Herod Stone is Eden's ruthless antagonist. He leverages secretly captured photographs of Eve to blackmail the mayor, hoping to extort the valuable Thorne family farmlands for himself. Finally, the paralyzed pastor. Eve's father, Malachi Noble, is drowning in severe spiritual exhaustion. When the mayor drops the blackmail photos on his desk, the pastor is left terrified and powerless to protect his daughter. The true threat to this modern-day Adam and Eve isn't a biblical serpent. It's the unresolved grief, greed, and spiritual exhaustion of the men sworn to protect them.
You know, the illusion of the American small town is basically that proximity equals safety.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, we drive through these places and we see the pristine church steeples, the generational farmland, the neighbors who all just know each other's names.
Right, the idyllic postcard stuff.
Exactly. And we just assume there's this protective barrier around it all, like a kind of moral quarantine.
Yeah, but that's just an assumption.
Right. But what happens when the architect of that moral safety net is suddenly ripped away?
Well, the quarantine fails.
Yes. And all that proximity doesn't breed safety at all.
Mm-hmm.
It just ensures that when the implosion happens, literally everyone gets caught in the blast radius.
Because it creates a vacuum. And human nature, especially, grieving human nature, will fill a vacuum with whatever is closest at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's grace. But more often than not, it's just a desperate, destructive need for control.
Oh, yeah, that is spot on. Well, welcome to our deep dive. I'm Jamo, and I want to warmly welcome all of you joining in today for this brand new series on the Maximus Heart Podcast Network. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us as we embark on this journey.
And I'm Gemma. I want to take a moment right at the top to specifically thank our return YouTube viewers who have been following our other works, exploring the incredible mind of author Johnny Fontaine.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
It's honestly a privilege to be back exploring his worlds with you.
Definitely. So today we are immersing ourselves in a comprehensive exploration of Chapter 2 from Fontaine's disruptively honest, faith-based drama, Eden Non Grata.
Such a powerful book.
It really is. And hey, if you haven't picked it up yet, do yourself a favor. The book is available right now on Amazon and Kindle. It is just a phenomenal read.
It really is. And to frame our discussion today, we need to anchor ourselves to the core premise of this narrative.
Right.
Within the world of good versus evil in Eden Non Grata, every choice has a consequence.
Yep.
It's basically the inescapable physics of this universe. But alongside that heavy reality, there is a profound hope for redemption stored in the unseen treasures of heaven.
I love that.
Yeah, we are looking at a story where the fallout of human failing is massive, but the offer of grace is equally relentless.
Relentless grace. I love that phrase, unseen treasures. And we actually have a massive update on that front for you guys.
Oh, yes, we do.
I want to directly invite you, the listener, to have the faith of a mustard seed right now.
Yeah.
Because the MaximusHeart.com website is currently planting a future Eden's Garden section.
Yes.
This section is going to reap an absolute harvest of bonus material for all of these YouTube series chapter breakdowns. So keep the faith, but keep an eye out on the website for more.
I mean, this is genuinely huge news.
It's wild.
It is. Johnny Fontaine himself is actually going to co-create and curate an amazing online experience with Eden Non Grata.
Like directly involved.
Directly involved. It's going to be similar in scope to his entire Turn the Page universe, which is already operational on the Maximus Heart website. The level of interactivity and world building he's bringing to this is just unparalleled.
It's going to be an incredible companion to the book. So, as we step into the town of Eden today, I want to start with the geography of grief.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's get into it.
Because Eden is dominated by two massive pillars, two families that basically dictate the spiritual and civic weather of the town.
Right, the Thornes and the Nobles.
Exactly.
Oh.
On the civic side, you have the Thornes, led by Joshua Thorne, the wealthy, popular mayor. Yeah. And on the spiritual side, you have the Nobles, led by Malachi Noble, who is the deeply loved pastor of Walnut Grove Baptist Church.
So you have civic law and spiritual guidance right there.
Yeah.
On paper, a town led by these two men should be impenetrable. It should be the idyllic sanctuary its name implies.
Yeah.
Right, Eden. But Chapter 2 reveals a community that is fundamentally shattered. It's operating in a massive, suffocating vacuum of grief following the death of Rachel Thorne.
Yeah, Rachel. She was Joshua's wife, Adam's mother, and Eve's Bible study teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But she was more than that. She was the keystone of a Roman arch.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Because you look at an arch, and it's this incredibly strong load-bearing structure. But it relies entirely on that single stone at the apex to distribute the weight.
Exactly.
The moment you pull the keystone out, the entire thing collapses inward, crushing whoever happens to be standing underneath. Yeah. Rachel was the keystone.
He was holding it all together.
Fontaine describes her as someone who was blameless before God and shunned all evil. She held the tension between all these powerful, volatile personalities.
And when she dies, the weight of all that unmanaged emotion just comes crashing down.
It really does.
And watching how Joshua Thorne processes this loss is terrifying because it's so common, sadly.
Yeah, it's very real.
At Rachel's burial, Joshua looks at his 16-year-old son, Adam, and just rebukes him. He tells his own child, "I can't bow down to anything that'd take half my soul and leave me to raise a boy like you."
Man, I physically recoiled reading that line.
It's brutal.
It's one thing for a grieving widower to be angry, but it's another entirely to weaponize that grief against your own child in front of an open grave.
Exactly. It's not just sadness.
No. Joshua's reaction isn't just sadness. It's total, unmitigated spiritual rebellion. He refuses to submit to a universe or a God that would allow this to happen.
Because Joshua is a man whose entire identity is built on structural control.
Right, he's the mayor.
He fixes infrastructure, he manages economies, he directs people. Death is the ultimate loss of control.
Wow, yeah.
When he says he refuses to, quote-unquote, bow down, he is outright rejecting any system where he is not the one holding the reins.
And he takes it out on Adam.
Because he can't control the fact that Rachel is gone, so he abdicates all responsibility. He medicates with alcohol.
Yeah.
He lets a dark, festering bitterness take over, and he completely abandons Adam to navigate this trauma alone.
But notice the divergence in how Adam handles the exact same traumatic catalyst.
It's day and night.
Joshua goes loud and destructive,
Yeah.
but Adam turns incredibly quiet. The imagery of Adam in those immediate aftermath moments is just haunting.
It really is.
Long after Joshua has staggered into a drunken sleep, Adam is awake in the middle of the night. He is isolated, completely rejected by his only living parent, and his response is this quiet, desperate prayer into the dark. He says, "Lord, deliver me an angel."
That contrast sets the psychological baseline for the entire novel. Joshua's grief calcifies into this self-righteous wrath. He externalizes his pain by looking for targets to blame, starting with his son.
Right.
But Adam's grief internalizes into a profound vulnerability. He doesn't ask for vengeance or for the world to burn. He just asks for presence. He asks for an angel.
It's funny. I think we all know someone who operates like Joshua.
Oh, definitely.
When their world breaks, they make it their absolute mission to ensure everyone else's world breaks too.
The misery loves company.
Exactly. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
If everyone is bleeding, then my bleeding isn't an anomaly.
Right.
But Adam, at 16 years old, is somehow maintaining this posture of seeking. He is looking for a way to survive the wreckage rather than adding to it.
And that search for survival leads us to how grief acts as a binding agent.
Yes.
Because Adam isn't the only one who lost Rachel. Eve Noble, the pastor's daughter, lost a profound maternal figure and mentor.
Rachel was her Bible study teacher, right?
Right. But clearly, she represented a safe harbor for her, too. So you have these two teenagers, Adam and Eve, essentially orphaned emotionally.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Joshua is incapacitated by rage, and as we discover later, Eve's father, Malachi, is incapacitated by his own anxieties.
So they are completely unsupervised in the deepest emotional sense. They are staring at the exact same void.
Yeah.
And that shared trauma bridges the gap between them, which sets the stage for what I consider the most visually arresting scene in the chapter.
Oh, the encounter in the summer shade of the grove.
Yes.
The scene at the apple tree. I mean, the imagery Fontaine employs here is so dense you could spend hours unpacking just these few pages.
Seriously. Let's paint the picture for the listener.
Yeah.
So Adam is wandering the Thorne estate. He's deliberately avoiding his father's wrath, just trying to stay out of the crosshairs.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanders into a grove and stumbles upon Eve. She's resting barefoot in the grass, seeking shade. She's eating a half-eaten apple, and she's writing in a leather-bound journal.
Right.
And Adam steps out and confronts her, telling her she's stealing fruit.
The literary architecture here is just brilliant.
It's so deliberate.
It is. We are in a town called Eden. We have characters literally named Adam and Eve. We have Eve sitting under an apple tree with a piece of half-eaten fruit.
I mean, come on.
Right. It is the most heavy-handed, recognizable allegory in Western literature, the fall of man from the book of Genesis.
Yeah.
But Fontaine takes that universally understood symbol of original sin and completely inverts its function.
He flips the script entirely.
He really does.
In Genesis, that tree is the site of the ultimate fracture. It's where humanity decides they want autonomy over obedience. It results in shame, hiding, and Adam immediately throwing Eve under the bus the second God asks what happened.
The birth of finger-pointing.
Exactly, the birth of finger-pointing. But here, in this grove, the tree becomes a site of intense, vulnerable reconciliation.
Let's look at Eve's immediate reaction, too. She's a rule follower. She's the pastor's daughter who has basically never broken a law of man or God.
Right.
When Adam startles her and calls her a thief, she drops her journal. She's super flustered. She admits she was tired, she was hungry, she missed the apples.
Making excuses.
Making excuses, exactly. But then she pushes past the superficial excuse and gets to the emotional truth. She admits she misses Adam's mom.
Yeah. And then we find out what is in that dropped leather journal.
Oh, this part is so good.
Adam asks what she's praying for, assuming it's, standard youth group stuff.
Like world peace or something.
Right. But she tells him she's asking God to forgive her sins.
Which throws him off.
Totally throws him off. He looks at her, this seemingly perfect pastor's kid, and says, "You're a pastor's daughter. You telling me you don't behave before the Lord?"
And Eve's response is just a masterclass in grounded theology.
It really is.
She doesn't put on a facade of perfection. She says, we all fall short. God sees every mistake, all my sins.
Yep.
She explains that she uses the journal to meticulously record her sins so she won't forget to confess them. She realizes there is absolutely nothing she can hide from the divine, and more importantly, nothing she desires to hide.
Compare that back to Genesis, right?
Oh, yeah.
The original reaction to sin was grabbing fig leaves and hiding in the bushes.
Exactly.
But this Eve is writing her flaws down in ink so they can be brought into the light. She is actively pursuing accountability. It's such a profound shift from a culture of shame to a culture of transparency.
Do we have to examine Adam's physical presence in this scene because the contrast is stark?
Oh, yes. The physical descriptions.
He isn't a pristine, privileged heir in this moment. Fontaine grounds him in grit. We hear the distant, haunting melody of Joshua's workers singing old-time hymns that Rachel taught them, by the way.
Right.
And Adam is standing there in jeans, a white t-shirt, heavy black boots. He is covered in dirt, rough, and deeply calloused.
Because his father subjects him to forced manual labor.
Exactly.
Joshua is basically using physical exhaustion as a weapon against his own son.
It's a form of control.
Total control. But despite that harsh, calloused exterior, Adam's internal operating system is still running on the software his mother installed.
I love that way of putting it.
Right. Because when Eve talks about God judging the wicked and the righteous, Adam doesn't respond with his father's cynicism. He doesn't mock her.
No, he immediately quotes the book of Ecclesiastes back to her.
Yes, for there will be a time for every activity, a time for every deed.
Because the family Bible sits on his nightstand and it exerts a gravitational pull on him. He is retaining Rachel's teachings, even as his environment tries to basically beat them out of him.
Yeah.
And the sensory details of this interaction make it incredibly intimate. The tiny nub of Eve's pencil showing how often she wrote.
Oh, I loved that detail.
Right. The breeze catching her red ringlets, and that micro moment of contact. Adam scoops the dropped journal up against his heavy boot, and as he hands it back to her, his dirt-stained finger brushes against hers.
It's electric.
Yeah.
Eve literally startles at the touch.
Yeah.
Adam can actually feel the pulse of blood at her wrist. It's a highly charged adolescent moment, but it remains incredibly innocent.
It does. However, we really can't ignore the psychological warfare happening inside Adam during this exchange.
No, we can't. It's pretty intense.
As he is holding her private journal before he hands it back, he experiences an intense internal battle. He hears a dark whisper in his mind, chasing itself around. No, read it, no, read it, no.
I found that detail so jarring when I read it.
Same.
Because if Adam is the protector, if he cares for Eve, Why does he have this sudden, intense impulse to violate her privacy?
Right.
It almost feels predatory for a split second.
Right.
Is he channeling Joshua in that moment?
Yeah.
Like, is the need to dominate and possess secrets bleeding into him from his father?
Well, I think it's the manifestation of intergenerational trauma.
Wow. Yeah.
Adam is a walking battleground. He possesses Rachel's spiritual memory and tenderness, but he is steeped in Joshua's atmosphere of control and cynicism.
Yeah, he breathes that air every day.
Exactly. That dark whisper isn't just curiosity, it's the temptation of power. Reading that journal would give him leverage. It would give him forbidden knowledge.
Which, again, circles us perfectly back to the original temptation in the garden.
Right.
The desire to seize knowledge that hasn't been freely given.
But the defining difference is his choice. He feels the pull of that darkness, the impulse to take control, and he actively rejects it.
He hands the journal back.
He does. Instead of stealing her secrets, he asks her a question. What do you pray for? He invites her to share on her own terms. He chooses connection over coercion.
That is such a key distinction. And that deliberate choice of respect culminates in the sharing of the apple.
Yeah.
Eve apologizes for taking the fruit. Adam looks at her, and he remembers his mother's lessons about giving generously to please the Lord. He tells Eve she was right.
Yeah.
He hands the apple back to her. She takes a bite. And then, in an act of profound solidarity, she offers it to him.
It's communion.
It really is. They are sharing a meal in the middle of a war zone.
Yeah, and in the original Genesis story, eating the fruit was an act of rebellion that severed humanity's connection to God and to each other.
Right.
But here, sharing the fruit bridges the chasm of their shared grief. It's a beautiful, quiet pocket of peace.
But, as is always the case in Eden, the quiet is temporary.
Unfortunately, yes.
While Adam and Eve are finding this, sliver of grace in the valley, a much darker institutional threat is literally looking down on them from the highest hill of the Thorn estate.
Yeah, we shift our focus to Rachel's grave.
Joshua's up there visiting his wife's burial site. And the details of this grave tell you everything you need to know about who Rachel was and how deeply Joshua resents it.
They really do.
Rachel specifically mandated that she be buried under a young tree on that hill, a tree that Adam planted from a seed.
Which is so symbolic.
Right. Joshua always hated that tree and wanted to cut it down, but Rachel protected it.
And her gravestone is equally striking. There is no name. There are no dates of birth or death.
It's completely blank.
Entirely blank, except for an inscription from Ecclesiastes. I have seen all things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind.
And Joshua is standing there staring at the dark veins in the marble, and he is just seething. He is furious that there are no words of his own chiseled into that stone. He feels entirely written out of her final testament. He's talking to her, walking all the way up that hill, desperately chasing after the wind for her voice, but he gets nothing but silence.
He is confronted with the ultimate boundary he cannot cross.
Death.
Exactly. He cannot bully, buy, or manage his way into the afterlife to get the closure he feels entitled to. But his isolation is interrupted by the arrival of a man who understands exactly how to exploit that kind of vulnerability.
Judge Herod Stone.
Judge Herod Stone.
We need to spend some time on Judge Stone. Because if Joshua is a man broken by grief, Stone is a man who monetizes it.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to say it.
He pulls up in a black limousine. He walks with a black cane. He is flanked by an ex-Marine bodyguard named Samson, whose sheer physical presence enforces compliance.
He's intimidating.
Extremely. Stone is the institutional arbiter of justice in Eden, but Fontaine makes sure we know the legal system is just a front. Stone is driven by unfathomable greed and a ravenous lust for the Thornland.
Stone represents systemic, calculated malice. Joshua is volatile and reactionary, right? But Stone plays chess. Stone looks at generations of thorn farmland and doesn't see history or community. He sees a blank canvas for luxury developments.
Dollar signs.
Exactly. He caters to politicians and wealthy investors. The narrative notes that for Stone, the love of money is the deepest root of his evil. It is an idolatry that supersedes all human life.
I look at Stone and I don't see a judge. I see a parasite.
So definitely.
A parasite doesn't attack a healthy host, right?
Yeah.
It waits until the immune system is compromised and then it latches on.
Wow. Yeah.
Stone knows Joshua's emotional immune system is completely destroyed. He climbs that hill, mumbles some incredibly fake, hollow sentiments over the grave of a woman who stood against everything he represents.
Right, the hypocrisy is thick.
And then he launches his psychological strike. He hands Joshua a large brown envelope.
And the contents of that envelope are engineered for maximum emotional devastation.
So calculated.
Stone adopts this faux sympathetic tone. He tells Joshua it's a quote-unquote damn shame about a perfectly good girl like Eve being used to sin like this. He deliberately plants the seed that Eve, the emblem of pastoral purity in the town, is engaged in some hidden, compromising behavior.
But the real weapon isn't just what is happening, it's where it's happening.
Yes. The location is everything.
The photographs inside that envelope were taken on a very specific parcel of land. And this is a massive plot point.
Huge.
Rachel secretly purchased this tract of land using money lent by her own family. It's completely separate from the Thorne estate holdings. And she willed it exclusively to Adam.
It was intended to be a sanctuary. Rachel knew Joshua's nature, and she wanted Adam to have a piece of earth that his father could not control, a place where he could escape.
Joshua never even knew it existed until Rachel explained it in her will.
Right, and what do the photos show?
The photos show Adam and Eve, along with their friends Silas and Rebecca, hanging out on this secret land. They are near a corn crop that Adam personally raises to feed the poorest family in town.
So it's literally an act of charity.
Yes, it's an act of charity happening on hidden ground.
But when Joshua looks at those photos, his reaction isn't curiosity. The text describes a fist of rage punching the air out of his lungs. It is a blinding black anger.
Which makes me wonder about Stone's tactical approach here.
How so?
Well, Stone wants the land, right? He wants
Yeah.
to build his developments. So why is his opening move to weaponize the reputation of the pastor's daughter? Why use the kids to extort a grieving widower?
Well, because Stone is a master of psychological leverage. He knows that Joshua's deepest insecurity is his son.
Oh, absolutely.
Joshua already believes that God cursed him by leaving Adam alive while taking Rachel. He resents Adam's existence, but Joshua is also acutely aware that Eve is cherished by the town and was cherished by Rachel.
So it's the perfect target.
By suggesting that Adam is corrupting Eve on this hidden land, Stone validates every single one of Joshua's paranoid resentments.
It's divide and conquer.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If Joshua is united with his son, the Thorne estate is strong. But if Joshua is consumed by despising his son, if he is actively tearing his own family apart, he becomes weak and distracted. He isolates himself from the town's sympathy. And a weak, isolated, furious man makes terrible, reactive business decisions. Stone is isolating the herd so he can pick off the prime real estate.
Man. And the manipulation works flawlessly.
Sadly, it does.
Joshua looks at the photos and makes a vow to Stone. He says, I'll take care of this. But the aftermath of that promise is where Joshua's psychology gets truly dangerous.
Terrifyingly dangerous.
As Stone's limousine drives away, Joshua stands on that hill and feels the rage completely darken his heart. And he justifies it with this chilling theological rationalization.
Right, the Moses comparison.
Yes. He remembers that Moses, the great biblical leader, had been a murderer before he became a prophet.
That is the danger of weaponized scripture.
It really is.
Joshua is looking at the story of Moses, a man who killed an Egyptian taskmaster in a fit of rage, and he is extracting a retroactive justification for his own potential violence.
He's twisting it.
Completely twisting it. He is convincing himself that his self-righteous fury isn't a sin, it's the necessary precursor to a prophetic calling. He is elevating his parental resentment to the level of divine wrath.
It's terrifying. He isn't just a grieving dad anymore. He views himself as an instrument of judgment.
Exactly.
But to truly grasp why the idea of Adam and Eve together triggers such an apocalyptic response in Joshua, we have to rewind.
We do. We have to look at the history.
We have to look at the history of these two kids, a history that Rachel herself documented.
And Fontaine handles this exposition beautifully. As Eve is reading to Adam from Rachel's journal back under the apple tree, we get a window into Rachel's profound posthumous insight.
Yeah.
We see exactly what she saw before she died. Rachel writes with incredible clarity about her fears. She admits, sometimes I feel Adam's heart is destined to be hardened like his father's.
So she wasn't blind to it.
No, she wasn't blind to the genetic and environmental risks.
But she doesn't stop at the risk. She pivots immediately to hope. She writes, "Yet I know the Lord God has begun a good work in my son." Her prayer for them is stunning. She prays that one day Adam and Eve will put a voice to both your hearts.
She recognized that there was a deep, unspoken bond between them. She writes that she has witnessed in Adam a compassion for you, which is poignant to see.
The complexity of that compassion is really what drives the tension in the town.
Yeah, because Adam's protection of Eve is fierce, and it is capable of extreme violence.
We are given a flashback from Joshua's perspective, right? Joshua remembers being called to the high school principal's office.
This scene was intense.
Adam, at 16 years old, had gotten into an altercation because two older boys were relentlessly teasing Eve.
And altercation is putting it mildly.
Oh, very mildly. Adam didn't just push them. The principal informs Joshua that Adam shattered one boy's cheekbone and broke the other boy's jaw, cracking several of his ribs in the process.
The sheer physical devastation a 16-year-old inflicted on two older boys is shocking.
It's a lot.
It reveals a terrifying capacity for violence. And this incident acts as a Rorschach test for the parents.
Oh, that's a good point.
Joshua looks at the broken bones and sees a liability. He views the incident as absolute proof that Adam is twisted up inside, a dangerous mirror of his own internal rage. Joshua only sees the destructive output.
But Rachel's interpretation is completely different.
Entirely different.
When Joshua tells her about the fight, they were walking outside under the stars. And Rachel doesn't excuse the violence, but she looks at the root cause.
Right.
She tells Joshua, Adam has some questions inside we can't answer for him. Maybe she can through the Lord's help.
Rachel saw a boy whose protective instincts were incredibly raw and untamed, but driven by a desperate, poignant love.
Yeah.
She viewed his actions as a sign of his immense capacity to fight for good if it could just be guided.
It is the fundamental tension of how a community views a troubled youth. Do you view them through the lens of their worst, most destructive moment,
Right.
which requires quarantine and judgment? Or do you view them through the lens of their underlying motive, which requires guidance and grace?
Joshua chose judgment. Rachel chose grace.
And we see Rachel actively choosing that grace in another incredible flashback. She secretly witnesses a moment of profound intimacy between Adam and Eve.
The winter scene.
The winter scene, yes.
Yeah.
It's following a Sunday church service in the dead of winter. Thick snow is falling, blanketing the town. Adam and Eve are standing alone under a barren walnut tree.
It's so cinematic.
It really is. Adam leans in and kisses her. And Eve, with this quiet confidence, says, I waited a long time for that.
It is a moment of pure adolescent hope. It is idyllic. Rachel is watching from a distance, and she has a choice. She could intervene, she could enact parental boundaries, but instead she offers a forgiving smile.
She just lets it be.
She gives them a little wave and says, forgive me, I wasn't planning to intrude. She recognizes the purity of the connection and blesses it with her grace, knowing that love is a far more effective teacher than condemnation.
But Fontaine is a master of contrast. He doesn't let us linger in that snowy romantic perfection.
No, he rips it right away.
He immediately juxtaposes that pure kiss with a deeply unsettling memory. Rachel also recorded in her journal a memory involving Judge Stone.
Ugh. This is where the true threat to Eve becomes tangible.
Yeah, talk about this part.
So Rachel recalls a time she saw Judge Stone speaking privately with Eve outside the school building. The body language is entirely defensive.
On Eve's part.
Right. Eve has her arms tightly crossed over her chest. Stone is looming over her, telling her, I've offered you my help. It would be folly for you to turn away such favor.
It sounds like a threat disguised as patronage.
It does. And then the physical boundary is crossed. As Rachel is walking by, she sees Stone take his hand and softly brush the back of it against Eve's cheek.
It is skin-crawling.
It is predatory. Rachel writes that a wind of hatred stung Rachel's eyes with tears. She couldn't tell if Eve's polite smile in response was genuine or a necessary illusion to survive the interaction.
Think about the immense, terrifying vulnerability of Eve in this ecosystem.
It's overwhelming.
She is the focal point of the entire town's spiritual war. She is loved with a fierce, potentially violent protectiveness by Adam. She is coveted and manipulated by the most powerful corrupt man in town, Judge Stone. And she is viewed as a dangerous catalyst for ruin by Mayor Joshua Thorne. She is a prize, a victim, and a savior all at once.
Which logically brings the narrative to the doorstep of the one man tasked with her ultimate protection, her father, Pastor Malachi Noble.
This final sequence is a masterclass in tension.
It really is.
We are inside Pastor Malachi's private office at Walnut Grove Baptist Church. And Malachi is not the confident, booming spiritual leader the town thinks he is.
No, not at all.
Behind closed doors, he is drowning.
He is attempting to write a sermon based on the book of Ecclesiastes. He is trying to synthesize Solomon's ancient wisdom that everything apart from God is barren, meaningless, a chasing after the wind, into a message of humility and repentance for his congregation.
But he can't find the thread.
He can't. He is battling a profound, paralyzing internal fatigue.
He takes off his wire-framed glasses and rubs his eyes.
Yeah.
He is looking at a wedding picture of his wife Leah and a picture of Eve on his desk. But the unfinished sermon is taunting him.
Because he's feeling like a hypocrite.
Exactly. He's having a full-blown crisis of faith because his own household is fractured over the Thorne family. His wife Leah vehemently defends Adam. She insists that the Lord has a purpose for the boy.
But Malachi is listening to a different frequency. The narrative describes how he is listening to the enemy.
Right.
And this enemy is characterized as cunning, baffling, and powerful. It is the voice of absolute fear. It whispers to Malachi that his wife might be falling prey to sin by defending this rebellious, violent boy. Malachi feels entirely unequipped to fight this spiritual warfare. He is the shepherd of the town, but he feels like he has lost his armor.
And it is precisely at this moment of maximum vulnerability that his secretary buzzes the intercom. Mayor Joshua Thorne has arrived unannounced.
Talk about bad timing.
A worse timing. Joshua walks into the pastoral office carrying the large brown envelope he received from Judge Stone. He places it right on the center of Malachi's mahogany desk.
It is a physical manifestation of a ticking time bomb sitting between the two pillars of the community.
Malachi tries to lean into his pastoral role. He tries to de-escalate. He brings up the late-night talks they shared right before Rachel's funeral, trying to find the humanity in Joshua.
But Joshua is emotionally hermetically sealed.
He refuses the lifeline.
Joshua brings an incredibly bleak, terrifying worldview into that sacred space. He starts talking about the cost of love. He acknowledges that Rachel refused to give up hope that Adam would eventually surrender his heart to God. But then Joshua delivers a line that shatters the room. He says, "Sometimes the picture cannot fit the frame." He looks the pastor in the eye and says, "Sometimes the things we see can't be what God created."
That concept, the picture not fitting the frame, is devastating.
It really is.
Joshua is saying that the idealistic, hopeful frame Rachel built around Adam and Eve is entirely incompatible with the ugly reality contained in those photos. He is declaring that some things are just broken beyond divine repair.
Malachi, still trying to salvage the situation, asks if Joshua wants him to pray for Adam.
And Joshua's response is bone-chilling.
Oh.
He says, no, the town needs the prayers. He tells the pastor, God saw the wickedness of man's heart from the start. He took care of it once with water, and sometimes I wish a flood like that would come again, wash us all clean.
A flood.
A flood. He is sitting in a church office, talking to a pastor, and wishing for an apocalyptic event to wipe out his own community.
It's intense.
I was trying to find a parallel for this level of destructive abdication. It's like a ship's captain and a navigator hitting a massive storm. And instead of gripping the wheel, bracing themselves, and navigating through the horrific ways to save the passengers, they decide to just scuttle the ship.
Wow. Yeah, it said exactly.
They decide to blow holes in the hull and let it sink because they were too exhausted and afraid of the work it will take to survive the storm. They prefer the absolute certainty of destruction over the messy, exhausting vulnerability of trying to save anyone.
That is exactly what fear does to leadership. Offering grace, investigating the truth, wading into the messiness of teenagers making mistakes that requires immense spiritual and emotional stamina.
It does. It's hard work.
A flood is easy. A flood is a total reset button. A flood absolves you of the responsibility of untangling the knots. Joshua is drowning in his own unmanaged grief, and he wants the entire town to drown with him, so he doesn't have to look at the reality of his fractured family. And he leaves that apocalyptic desire sitting right there on the desk.
Malachi tries one last time. He talks about the full armor of God that protects those who wear it. And Joshua just scoffs at the concept.
Just dismisses it.
He looks at the pastor and asks if that armor is powerful enough to stop the unthinkable. And with that, he turns and walks out.
Leaving Malachi alone in a wake of absolute dread, the chapter closes with Malachi staring at the picture of Eve on his desk. He feels a strange, creeping terror whisper in his mind.
Right.
He imagines her out there in the world, unprotected, without the armor, potentially becoming a slave to the very darkness he has dedicated his life to fighting. His hand rests heavily on his worn Bible. The only word echoing in the silence of his office is Joshua's final word. Unthinkable.
What an agonizing cliffhanger. You're left staring at that envelope right alongside Malachi. What did Judge Stone capture on that secret lamp?
What's in the envelope?
Right. What could possibly be so damning that it makes a father wish for a biblical flood? And how is a pastor who is already buckling under the weight of his own doubts going to react when he opens it and sees his daughter?
It is a masterfully constructed pressure cooker. The stage is set, the structural integrity of the town has been compromised, and the explosive fallout is inevitable.
Which brings us to the close of our time today. We have mapped out an incredible amount of territory. We've examined the fragile, intricate web of secrets holding the town of Eden together.
You really have.
We've explored the beautiful, healing, but incredibly high-stakes connection forming between Adam and Eve as they try to survive the vacuum of grief left by Rachel Thorne.
We've broken down the looming institutional malice of Judge Herod Stone, a man who weaponizes the vulnerabilities of broken families to feed his own greed.
And we've witnessed the devastating, cowardly transfer of a mysterious envelope between two deeply broken fathers, men who seem entirely prepared to let fear and wrath override any possibility of grace.
The collision course is set, and I know you are dying to know what happens when that envelope is finally opened.
I know I am.
I strongly encourage everyone listening and watching to go purchase Eden non Grata right now. Don't wait for our next deep dive. Read ahead. Experience the explosive fallout of these secrets firsthand. Fontaine's handling of this tension is remarkable, and it is a journey you really need to take.
Completely agree. And while you are online, I invite you to check out Johnny Fontaine's author page on Amazon and Kindle, dive into the expanding Eden non-Grata universe, and explore his other works.
Yes, definitely do that.
There's so much depth waiting for you, and as we said at the start, the Maximus Heart website is gearing up to bring even more of this world to life.
As we sign off today, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder as you reflect on the fractured town of Eden and the heavy choices these characters are navigating. Because in Fontaine's world, nothing exists in isolation. If every choice has a consequence, then every consequence must seek its path through.